Hey, y'all, welcome to another episode of the Black People Parenting Podcast. Thank you for joining us. Inside of this episode today, of course, my name is Dion, and I am also the Glad Dad, your host, and just all things pertaining to fatherhood and responsible parenting. You're now tuned into the #1 podcast for Black parents. Appreciate y'all checking us out. Inside of the episode today, I've got the wonderful Dr. Bambi Gaddis with me for part 2 of our session for the month of May on the topic of mental health. Since May is the mental health awareness month, we wanted to do some content and have some conversations pertaining to mental health. Last week, we talked about women, Black women particularly, and mental health and how their physical health and their mental health kind of coincide with one another. Today, I wanted to bring on a good brother on the show, Jhazmere Preston. He is here to talk to us, and we're going to discuss mental health on our young Black men specifically, but also how mental health can affect their sexual decisions and just decisions that they make in their lives. Dr. G, I'll welcome you first and open the floor to you, ma'am. What would you like to say to the people?
Well, I'll be brief. So, I'm fortunate as a HIV Clinical Trials Network ambassador to engage in a series of conversations that have actually been going on since pre-COVID. And part of our focus is on faith leaders, laymen, but community. And I have an opportunity in this space to work with Mr. Dion Chavis with Black People Parenting. And part of this journey that we've been on is really trying to process how do we get science-based information that really helps transform communities into a space where they can get it in layman's language. And so this is one of what Dion represents to me is a unique opportunity that we have to really engage Black parents, Black men, and Black communities in conversations that unfortunately we're not having enough. So at any rate, with mental health being a critical issue that's stigmatized in our community, I'm grateful for this opportunity to meet Mr. Preston. And I should say that before we even begin, because there's got to be someone else on here that's thinking what I'm thinking, so let me just put it out there. So tell me about these acronyms that are behind your name. So can you tell me, like, I think I get the MS part, but tell me about the other labels so that I have a clear understanding of your history and your journey.
Okay, I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor. That's the first one, and I'm a licensed clinical addiction specialist as well. And with the A means I'm associate, means I'm still practicing until I'm fully licensed. I've been in the field, I want to say since 2002. I'm originally from New Jersey, and when I moved to North Carolina, I was doing paraprofessional work. And with the paraprofessionals, what we used to do is we actually used to take the kids out, and I believe that was actually a lot more effective than what's happening now. So we used to take the kids out, we used to do activities with the kids, we used to take them to the park, we used to take them to the gym, we used to really work with them on a more intense level. And I just grew a liking for it because I was able to engage with people who looked just like me, or who came from background that was similar to my own. So I fell in love with the love of paraprofessional work, which led me to becoming a licensed therapist. So I went to school, got licensed, and here I am. Now I have my own practice, Mentor Raising Mentors Behavioral Health Services, and we're just trying to push the envelope by trying to see things different, and meet people where they are.
So, yeah, your mic is a little bit low. I'm not sure if you can fix that. I know you're on your phone, but it's a little hard to hear you.
Thank you for that, Dion. One other thing, you said where was your point of origin? What state?
New Jersey.
That's my home.
Come on now. What part?
No, what part? You tell me what part.
Camden, New Jersey.
Camden?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. I won't get distracted, Dion. My first my first love was from Camden, New Jersey. He played basketball for Camden High. He lived on 1467 Keynes Avenue.
Oh, you took it back. Okay,
Oh,
okay.
so, hey, so you know. Anyway,
Well,
that's another
we'll have a family reunion a little bit later. So Jazz, let's please don't get her started, Jazz. So let's dive in a little bit. And I want you, as someone who is in the field practicing, can you share with us some of the unique mental health challenges that young people are facing today?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Am I coming through?
I mean, it's still low, but I can hear you.
Okay. So some of the unique challenges that I find, working with the children that I work with, mainly anxiety. They deal with a lot of anxiety, mood changes, their attention span, and behavior issues. And I want to say a lot of that comes from, it stems from the pandemic. The pandemic had a lot to do with what we're seeing today as far as their anxiety being high. But a lot of children, man, they're dealing with anxiety. But the main part is social media. A lot of social media, a lot of comparison, a lot of comparing themselves to other children. A lot of bullying in the school has also been a challenge working with the kids, and dealing with parenting. I want to say a lot of it is dealing with parenting as well. Getting the parents to actually be engaged and interact with their children, because they are, I want to say, distracted by social media as well.
For sure. Jess, is your phone on the charger by any chance?
No.
Okay. I was thinking maybe that was what was interfering with the sound.
Can you hear me clearly now?
Yeah. So I wanna go back to what you just said in terms of parenting and in terms of social media. What role? Because you're a parent, you're a dad, I'm a dad, and as fathers, specifically as fathers of daughters, right?
Yeah.
I think the role of social media is huge, and it needs to be unpacked a little bit more. So talk to us from a parental standpoint, but also from the standpoint of someone who is practicing mental health with these young people. What role do you think social media is playing in the decision making and the mental health of our young people?
Plays a heavy role because there are a lot of influences on social media. There are a lot of influences that kids see. They want to emulate. They want to be like. They want to do. They're mimicking, and they're watching their friends do it. Then it's peer pressure because their friends are doing it. So they are peer pressure to follow their friends. And as a father, I will say what I had to do is I had to limit my child's interaction on social media.
Mm,
And for the most part, I actually had to take social media away from her, and I had to take off the TikTok. I had to take off the Instagram because I don't believe she should have it at this point. It's just too much. There's too much information that's being put out there, that's being programmed in her mind, that's reprogramming what I'm trying to program.
mm,
So it's causing her to have, or many other kids to have conflict in school where they're not paying attention, they're not focused, and they're just totally distracted. So what I did was, and I recommend this for most parents, because most parents, man, they, for whatever reason, they feel like they just can't take the phones away. I don't know what that's about. I talk to plenty of parents when I do my counseling sessions, and I ask them, why won't you take the phone? So the first thing they say is, my child needs some sort of communication. My child needs to be able to speak to me, and I need to see that I need to see that my child is okay through the phone. So the first thing I tell them is, well, your child needs communication, and you need to be able to communicate with your child just to make sure that your child is okay. Well, what I did was I gave my child a flip phone. So, of course, she wasn't happy about it. Of course, she was frustrated with it, but I gave her a flip phone because the only thing that I need is to be able to have contact with you. The internet, social media, that's a plus, that's extra. So I noticed when I took the phone away from her, she was able to focus more in school. Her grades
mm,
came up, her attention span. she was able to focus and get her assignments completed.
Can I add something? Recently, my daughter has two, but the youngest is 17. And during an episode, he broke his phone, and he's been out of connection for about 2 to 3 weeks. And like Mr. Preston's observation, one of the things that we talked about at some length is that since Chase did not have access to his phone, that his attention was totally focused on her ability to negotiate, her ability to get his attention on certain issues, and the pressure that was now off of him in responding to people calling him for this, that, and the other was then removed. So he had this reason, if you will, to say, I don't have a phone, or if you want to get to me, call my mother's phone, but that's the only way I can communicate. Her perception was it did him good. So I asked her, so now what? Now that his phone has been replaced, how are you going to keep that space that you now have validated is worth keeping? Is there some kind of new rules or some kind of constraints or some kind of agreement that you can come up with? Is that what you did? Or she just has a flip phone?
Oh, no, I just gave it a total flip phone. I gave it a flip phone, and I said, "This is how you communicate with me." And when I actually did that, like I said, it brought her grades up and it helped her to focus in class because she didn't have. What I find right now is a lot of children have identity issues, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to be able to identify who they are because they don't know who they are. They're still coming into their own. Their brains are still developing. And by what I want people to understand is when we allow them to have their phones and they are on TikTok or Instagram, what they're doing from an anxiety standpoint and from an attention standpoint, they're scrolling. So they're scrolling the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So their brains are just constantly going on the next thing, the next thing. So it keeps them entertained. So when you put them in a setting where they have to sit down and listen and focus, it's difficult for them to do because they're not seeing something that's new, that's different, like this. They have to constantly focus and pay attention to a teacher give a lesson plan, and they have to focus on their lesson, and it takes complete concentration. And it's hard for them to do that because they've been scrolling, seeing different things, putting their attention and their energy into different things that's happening on social media, and it's hard for them to really lock in and focus. So when you take that away from them and you teach them to have patience, when you teach them to really lock in and stay focused, when you give them a book and say, I need you to read a chapter, and then I need you to give me a report on what you read, it helps slow the mind down so they can actually stay locked in and focus.
Jazz, do you think that there is a connection between social media usage in our young people and their ability to make healthy sexual decisions?
That's a give and take, man. And the reason I say that because there is information on social media in regards to practicing safe sex, but there's also images of over-sexualizing. So children are watching these things and they're saying, I want to do that. I want that type of girl. I want her to be like that. And what happens is their sex drive goes straight up. And what happens is what they tend to do is tend to make decisions that are unhealthy.
How old is your daughter, Mr. Preston?
My daughter is 12.
12.
I have a 12-year-old and I have a 19-year-old today.
Daughter or son?
I only have daughters.
Okay. Well, so I guess my question is twofold. First of all, And my daughter, who is 43 this year, has a 26-year-old and a soon to be 17-year-old. So there's this age gap. So my first question is, when you think in the context of sexual decision making and your role as a father, what is the difference between how you're communicating with your 12-year-old versus how you communicated with your 19-year-old when she was in that space? So that's my first question. Is it different? And if so, how so?
Well, with my 12-year-old, I don't believe sex is more so the topic right now. I believe emotional attachment is the topic right now. Because she's learning to experience her emotions and her feelings and liking boys and puppy love, right? So what I talk to her about is respect yourself, know your worth, and I don't feel as though you're ready right now for any type of engagement with any young man because it's a distraction. You don't know too much about your emotions. You're still trying to understand yourself. So what happens is when you get too involved and wrapped up in a situation with a young man, you get distracted. And when he breaks your heart, because of course, as you know, young men, they're trying to find themselves. So they testing the waters. Your heart is broken and now you can't focus and now you're dealing with some sort of acute depression. So I explained that to her, dealing with the puppy love as far as guard your heart. And you're not ready as of yet. It's okay to have a friend, but you're not ready as of yet. And I talked to her about body parts. So what I do is I let her know, hey, this is an important body part. This is what this body part does, and this is how it functions. No man or woman is supposed to touch your body part at all. So I explained that to her. So that's the level of discussion I have with my youngest. With my oldest, she's in college. So, what I mean?
I'm right there with you, Jazz. I'm right there with you.
You did with me.
She's in college. That's all you got to say.
Right.
I know.
So, as far as I know, from what she tells me, and my daughter, she's, for the most part, an honest young lady. As far as I know, she's still a virgin. And I'm thankful and happy about that. So, but I also talk to her about the type of men that you invite in your life, the type of men that you invite in your space. I preach, hey, abstinence, right? No sex until marriage. That's the ideal. That's what I want for you. But in case something happens, these are the things that you have to do. You have to protect yourself. Protect yourself. Know what kind of man that you want to have a relationship with. What makes this man special? And what makes this man special enough to give yourself to this man, if you ever decide to do so. But as your father, I'm listen. I don't think you're ready for sex neither. That's my spiel. And those are the type of
so if I can dig a little deeper, and I don't want to distract from Mr. Chavis' agenda. So to that point, so I'm going to be personal, and you don't have to answer, by the way.
Go ahead.
So when I've been, whether it was a pastor, clergy, community, I tend to ask these questions as we talk about what is our messages that we convey to our young people in today's climate. One is not including a time when you may have been forced or coerced into having your first sexual experience.
Okay.
Ignoring that, but talking about a time when you believed that you were old enough, grown enough to make the decision that you were going to be sexually active. How old were you? You have to answer. You have to answer. The second question is, where were you the first time you did it of your own free will?
Okay.
Who were you with? Were you married or single? And engaged doesn't count.
Okay.
Did you use any form of protection?
Okay.
Against pregnancy or an STI? And finally, what could anybody have said to you in that time and place with that person to make you just say no? And what I have confirmed over and over and over again, be it faith leaders, etc., that for the average adult. The first sexual experience was as a teenager,
Mm.
and it was not 19 was way in the upper realm. It was more likely, especially for young black men between the ages of 13 and 14. For black girls, it's 14 and 15.
Mm.
So I guess part of my question is, as we continue to talk about in these days and times with all these outside exteriors,
Mm.
stimulants,
Mm.
are we being, are you, are we, am I, are we being transparent about who we were at that same age?
Mm.
And are we translating our messages in the context of real life, or are we just talking about this fictitious goal that rarely have I confirmed that anybody met?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't play the nice guy with my children, so I'm not the good boy. So I tell my children when I started engaging, my first time engaged in sexual activity, not penetration, I was 6 years old. So, you know what I'm saying? I was six doing things I wasn't supposed to be doing and getting things that I wasn't supposed to be getting. Um, to be honest with you. And the thing about it is I've never watched at that age, didn't watch pornography, didn't see anything that I wasn't supposed to see. So I don't know how at 41 years old I sit and think, I'm like, I don't know how I knew what I was doing or what I was doing because I've never witnessed anything sexual when I was younger. Never. My mom protected me from that. So I don't know what I was doing, why I had that feeling, but I had that feeling. And I engaged in those activities. I had my first sexual experience when I was 12 or 13. So those are things that I'm able to express to my daughters and let them know what I was thinking, right? And how I was feeling. And through my experience, I try to get them to live vicariously through me. Like, this is what I experienced and how I felt, and this is what I did to the young girl who I had the encounter with, and this can possibly happen to you. Somebody can have sex with you and then keep moving. You're gonna feel this way. You're gonna feel that way. Like I give them the raw because that's what life is. I don't try to sugarcoat anything. I just give them to them real.
Well, the
So
one thing
go ahead.
that I'm hearing, and I'll be brief, my dad raised me and my sisters from the ages of 10, 8, and 2.
Mm-hmm.
One of the greatest things that we talk about is being able to say to someone, if you don't leave me alone,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get my daddy.
I know that's right.
So I think that part of what we're also missing, and what I hope we would reinforce to convey in this space, is that the role of black men in the raising of both their sons and their daughters
Mm-hmm.
is one of the most viable achievements that we can get to when we wonder why some of these young folks are going in the directions that
Right.
they're going in. And that's why for black women, my message clearly to them is what went on between you and your man is totally irrelevant to what those children need from him as a father and as a man figure.
Right.
And what he brings to the table, given that he's correct and has their best interests in heart,
Mm-hmm.
you can't replace.
That's right.
So keeping your children away from him, denying them access to him as the father,
Mm-hmm.
is going to end up being the biggest mistake you may ever make in your life.
Mm.
I appreciate the fact that you're having these transparent conversations because that is part of mental health.
Yeah.
It is
Mhm.
part of being able to say, I've had some really honest conversation with the man in my life who cares and protects me.
Right. Right. I mean, and you,
Jess, let me,
and I'll just say this, and I'll let you get on your next question. But
go ahead.
if we're not honest, then we're creating barriers. So we have to be honest with our experiences, and we have to be honest with our children. Now you can filter how much you want to give, but you should always be honest, because by being honest, you're giving them truth, and what they do with that truth, it can protect them. Like you said, it's important to have those conversations where you say, has someone ever forced you or tried to peer pressure you into doing something that you know that you didn't want to do? Those are real conversations. And if we don't have those conversations, our children don't feel safe. And they may feel like I'm the only one that's going through it. My mom and dad probably didn't go through this. But they need to know there's a relation there. I went through the same thing that you're going through now. Nothing new is under the sun. I've been through it as well, and I'm here to support you.
You said something that made me kind of threw me off track a little bit. I want to push back on that statement just a little bit, Jazz, because as older adults, as 40-year-olds, I always say this is, and I agree with everything you said. The one thing that I tell my daughter, and I especially told her within the last 4 to 5 years, is that your generation, her generation, is going through something, has experienced something that I would never understand. Right. And that was that pandemic.
Right.
I will never I will never understand. I will never be able to comprehend what it's like to be a 13, 14, 15-year-old child during that pandemic. And I think we have to get to a point as parents, as practitioners, as Black folks specifically, and say the thing that pandemic, it hit a lot harder than we thought it was, and we're just now starting to see the effects of that pandemic. I had a conversation with my daughter last week, and we were talking about social skills, right? And we were just talking about how to develop social skills, and I say, yo, like, you know, your like 10th and 11th grade year, you weren't even in a classroom. Right. So though, you know what I mean? Like those times that you would, you know, hang out with your classmates or do all of these things that kind of lay that foundation for your young adult years was missing. And I think as parents, we kind of forget that when we are teaching our children, just as a society. I think we've forgotten about COVID, right? Like it was a thing of the past.
It's whatever, right?
It's gone, right? It's gone. Like, you know, anybody think about COVID. Where is it out, G?
But you know, everything, it was a traumatic experience. But all traumas have to be acknowledged. Just like our children would never understand some of the things that we had to endure when we grew up. My child would never know what it's like to see people standing on the corner selling drugs in the front of a house. Right. To see fiends walking by, like to see cocaine on top of the kitchen table or down on the table. Don't understand that world. But I do.
Right.
You feel what I'm saying? But there are challenges, there's trauma in every experience with a human being, you know what I'm saying, that we've encountered, but we have to find a way to get over. We have to find a way to jump over that hurdle in the most healthiest way possible. And we, like I said, we all experience some sort of setback in life, but we can't allow those setbacks to I want to say destroy our future.
Do you have a therapist?
Excuse me?
Do you have a therapist?
I'm actually looking for one.
Okay. I was told, well, my daughter is a clinical social worker, CLI, whatever that is. You know what I'm saying? Whatever those acronyms are. Yeah, she's all that. And she has said to me on numerous occasions that everyone should have a therapist, that everyone should have a neutral party that they process with. And so I just wondered whether, you know, in your caregiving profession, where you are hearing all of this trauma, as well as reflecting on your own life experience, how does that play into how you do self-care?
I know one of the things I do, I try to take a vacation at least once a month, because if I have an empty cup, I cannot pour into others. So I take a vacation at least once a month. I don't have an assigned therapist, but I do have like supervisors and other clinicians who I speak with, who I sit down with, and I may discuss some cases, and they may ask me, what are some things that you're going through? And I tell them, but I'm definitely looking for a therapist in my area.
And
Um,
looking, I mean, so I'm not asking this for frivolous reasons.
Go ahead.
You know, people struggle with seeking counsel for mental health.
Correct.
Black folks have to come to terms with it first and foremost that it's something that may help them. Once they overcome that and move from pre-contemplation to contemplation, then the next question is, who am I going to?
Correct.
So, what am I looking for? Now, in my daughter's role, I we've had our own conversation about what she thinks I need or who she thinks I should look for. My question for you as a therapist is, do you know what you're looking for, and how will you know when you find it?
I'm looking for truth, and I'm looking for someone to challenge me. And I know I'm not always right. So I'm looking for someone who can definitely challenge my thought process, and who can give me better insight from a, like you said, from a different perspective. I love when people can give me things from a different perspective and help me see things from the other side of the track. So once I know that I'm being challenged, and when I put that application into practice, I know I have the right therapist. I know I have someone who's getting into me, and who I can use and who I can grow from.
So, Jess, let me ask you this: as a therapist, I'm sure that you encounter um, folks who may be reluctant to seek therapy for themselves or their children, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Especially being from where you come from, where I come from, our community.
Hmm.
Um, what is your retort when someone says therapy is for white folks, or my kids don't need no therapy? Ain't nothing wrong with that boy. He just need a good spanking. What is your response when you hear those things?
I mean, for the most part, I hit them with, you, you get an oil change in your car, don't you?
Hmm.
Because if you want the brain and the body to function appropriately and function how it needs to function, sometimes it needs maintenance. Sometimes you need someone to talk to who can give you a different perspective, or who can give you tools that you need in order to build the house that you need. See, a lot of people have tools in their hand, but if you if the screw is a Phillips and you have a flathead, it's not going to do any justice. So
Mhm.
you have to have the right tools. And sometimes, and I explained to them that sometimes having the right person or the right professional in someone's life can help you build the home that you need. And that home is within the inside. So I've rarely run across, to be honest with you, I rarely run across um, people who are reluctant to therapy. I maybe in my lifetime, doing this in my profession, maybe had maybe one or two, but I
Hmm.
rarely run across um, the ones who will say, "Man, that's a hoax, or that's not going to work." When I encounter people and they meet with me, I don't know what it is. They get a feeling, and they say, "I would love for my child, or I want to work with you." Um, I connect with you, so it's more so of a connection. Um, and that's just about it. I've rarely had people say that they don't want therapy because they think it's a joke. Now,
Hmm. Hmm.
where I've come from, um, a lot of I have a lot of homeboys who I grew up with who have experienced a lot of trauma. I'm talking about I've had homeboys who, this is real talk, watch their friend commit suicide in front of them and never receive any type of help
For sure.
from that situation, and just keep moving. And that's what we
Hmm.
do. That's how we did when we grew up. We just keep it moving. But what happens is it starts to cause us to deteriorate, like mentally. We start to break down. And how we break down, what we start to do, we start to use drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. So I have talked to some of my brothers from the past, and talked to them about seeking help and getting the help that they need, because it's important that they have someone to talk to. You don't have to go through that by yourself. And a lot of times people are going through things, and they're going through things by themselves. And they need that professional help. They need that someone to talk to on a one-on-one, so they can have tools to get over with their whatever they're going through.
So as a parent and as a therapist, how are you, I guess, empowering parents to kind of take this mental health journey with their young people? Because again, as parents, there was no blueprint for us, right?
Right.
There was no one who showed us, when we were growing up. I don't know anybody who ever went to therapy, right? But it is something that I have tried to impart on my children as much as I possibly could, for that exact reason. Like, you take your car to the dealership because you need an oil change, you get a broken bone in your body, you go to the emergency room. We take care of our physical health, but oftentimes we don't think about the importance of taking care of our mental health. So how are you empowering parents to step into that role of, when the child is not in a session with you, handling, because it can be a lot, like dealing with teenagers, dealing with young people as
Definitely.
a parent, it can be a lot. So,
Definitely.
what words of wisdom and advice do you have, Dr. G? You're muted.
I was going to say, and sometimes the parents need therapy. It's not so much the kids that need
For
therapy.
sure, for
The parents
sure.
need the therapy.
If I can be honest with you,
They're just coping.
85% to 95% of the times it's the parent, right? It's the parent. I have one quote I can give you that I use all the time when I talk to these parents. And it's something that I've learned for myself. And I tell my parents this also, right? I tell them, you need to adapt the technique or the idea. Do as I say, learn from what I do. Do as I say, learn from what I do. The problem is with parents, they have this idea of do as I say, and that be that. Do as I say, but you smoking weed in front of your child.
Mm-hmm.
You cussing, you stealing in front of your child. You're doing all types of volatile or inappropriate things in front of your child, but you tell them, do as I say. But what you got to understand is the human brain works from observation. So we watch, we see, we adopt, and then we put it into practice. So I teach my parents and tell my parents, you have to practice that. Do as I say, learn from what I do. If you want your child to make up the bed, you start making up your bed. You want the child to wash dishes, you show them how to wash dishes. You want your child to be on time, you start being on time. You don't want your child to smoke, you stop smoking. How about that? How about we start there?
And how's that go over? It makes perfect sense to me. I mean, I love it. I love do as I say, learn from what I do. I wrote that down.
Okay. Oh, yes.
Dr. G was about to cuss too.
Say what? No, I love it. But
You about to say I wrote that S down. Okay.
you see that because in you saying that to them, you're saying that we are all products of our environment.
Correct.
And that we do what we see. And how quickly we forget that we can be doing something every day and thinking our kids are not adopting that behavior.
Yes, they are.
And don't want to take responsibility or accountability for it, but then want to beat them, as Mr. Chavis has indicated, want to punish or create some other penalty for something that we do. So how do they receive that when you put it to them in that way?
They don't receive it well. A lot of parents don't receive that well, because what it does is it holds you accountable. So what I do is I add myself in the equation. So I let them know what I once did versus what I do now. And like for example, sometimes our children don't like to read, and they don't like to read because what are you doing majority of the day? Well, majority of the day, you're probably watching television. You're doing something on your phone and you're distracted. But I guarantee if you start to just pick up a book, I tried this with my daughter, I promise you, and it works. I put on, what is that music these kids, Lofi music?
Lo-fi.
Lo-fi music. I put on the lo-fi music, right? Forgive me.
I'm
I'm old.
ignorant anyway.
So I put I put the lo-fi music on. I got the lights on in the living room, and I'm just reading. And my daughter, she comes down, she's watching. She said, "Daddy, what you doing?" I said, I'm reading. I'm enjoying the moment. I'm enjoying my peace. I'm reading. So I did something different besides watching television or scrolling on my phone. And what she did was she went back upstairs, she got a book, and she sat on the couch and she started reading too. So she saw what I was doing. She felt my energy. She felt the environment, and she changed. And I give parents that story so they can see when you change the environment. You are the leader. So your kids will follow you, but it has to start somewhere.
Are you a single parent?
I am. I am. And it's, to be honest with you, if I can be completely honest and transparent, it is difficult. So I'm a single parent, and I can say it is difficult. I know, because I'm for instance, this is my typical day. I'm here, doing this this cast. I have another session at 7:30. Sometimes I don't get home until about 8:30. So I pour so much into my community, into the people, that sometimes I don't get the opportunity to pour that energy into my child. So I've had to learn how to have balance, because I don't want to overwork and I miss something, which sometimes I do. And I've had to learn how to just pull back and say, I have to have time here, but I also have to make time here, because this is more important than this over here. This is important, but this right here is my future. And I have to put time and invest in my future. So if I can be transparent, I have to learn balance. So I'm able to use my transparency and my self-disclosure with my clients, so they can get an understanding of the changes that I had to make in order to create a healthy environment.
So just shifting gears just a little bit, when we talk about mental health, and when we talk about sexual health in our young people, Jazz, how can we teach our parents to break the stigma around having mental health conversations and healthy sexual health conversations, right? Because like you said, you are open and honest, but a lot of parents may not feel comfortable having those conversations with their young people, whether it be about mental health, whether it be about sex, right? Because, as we already said, these young people are dealing with a pop culture is totally different than when we grew up, right?
Right.
The internet wasn't around when we grew up, right? COVID again. So, they may not feel comfortable having those conversations. So what steps do you think you could give for parents who might be struggling with finding that level of comfort with having those hard conversations with those kids?
Let me ask you a question. What's 2 plus 2?
Well, if I'm Terrence Howard, it's 5, but for normal people, it's 4. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Terrence Howard would say 5. But
okay.
Good question.
But you say the correct answer confidently, right? But why? You say the correct answer confidently because because you're educated. So the more we know, the more education we have, the more confident and comfortable we are talking about things. So I'm not confident talking about things I don't know about or things I don't understand. So it's important for our parents to educate themselves, self-education, educating themselves on what's happening in today's society with our children, educating themselves about what children are going through as far as sexual desires or premarital sex, or how they feel about sex, or how they feel about themselves, how they feel about their mental health, learning more about mental health. They can do that by taking seminars, or just, you can go on YouTube nowadays and gain information on depression or anxiety, so that you can have the education to have those conversations with your child. But it's pure education, man. Education brings confidence. So if I know, then I'm willing to talk about what I know about.
Did you talk to your daughter, the oldest, about birth control, beyond abstinence until marriage, what kind of conversations did you have regarding pregnancy prevention, STDs, etc.?
Well, I'll explain to her. If you have unprotected sex, you're taking a gamble, you're taking a risk. So with that, you're risking the chance of catching an STD because you don't know who this person was sleeping with before you. So you're actually taking a gamble. So you can practice abstinence. I would prefer you practice abstinence. I would prefer you wait till you get married, and then when you find somebody, you guys both get your test results, and you guys can share and be happily married. But I know that's the white picket fence mindset. I get that. We live in reality. Hormones are raging. You have desires. I got you. So if you're going to have or engage in sex, make sure that you protect yourself. Make sure that young man is protected. Make sure you feeling what's going on over there. Make sure he ain't trying to take no condoms off, because people do that. I give it to her all the way real. I keep it 100, and she receives it. She hit me with dad. I'm like, hey, we got to talk about this, because this is real. If I don't talk about it, then you're not educated. Mm-hmm. And if you're not educated, then anything can happen. And then I have to put that on me for not educating.
So you would advocate that she also carry condoms versus expecting the man to have it?
I don't see why not. If you're sexually active, again, I can only speak for what she tells me. My daughter tells me that she's not sexually active. But if she was sexually active, I would tell her, well, you need to have some protection with you. So if you're engaging in sex, and if you horny and having sex with this person, or whatever you're doing, you need to make sure that you have protection, because if he doesn't, you do.
Well, I only say that, and I don't want to belabor it. Like I said, my dad raised me. Mm-hmm. So my dad raised me from the age of 8. Mm. My dad never taught. My sisters were 10 and 2, give or take, whatever. My dad was always clear with us that he did not feel comfortable. We're talking 60s, 70s. So he made it clear, as a single man raising 3 girls with no mother present, of what he was comfortable with and what he wasn't. He introduced us to the library very early. He said, if you need resources, go there. He introduced us to certain women that came to attend to us, if you will, who did our hair or whatever things he couldn't do. And he said, talk to Miss Robinson, or he would tell us who to talk to if we had girl questions.
Right.
When I decided prior to going to college that I did not, I made decisions. Let's just say I made decisions. Uh-huh. My bestie and I went to the doctor together. Mm-hmm. We planned it. We planned going to the doctor together. We planned getting on birth control, pregnancy prevention together. I never told my dad. That I had. Now, he introduced me to healthcare, which was another thing that he did. He introduced us to a physician, or to doctor, or to an avenue for us to seek physical sexual health care.
Right.
But I never told him that I went with my girlfriend and we got on birth control together. So I said that to say that as parents, and we always hope and wish that our child will, make decisions that potentially delay onset, or they will make decisions that we perceive will be to their best interests physically and mentally. But they don't know
do you feel like that had a positive impact, or positive, neutral, or negative impact on
what? On what?
Oh, your father just shunning away from it and telling you, hey, talk to her, or
No, I never took what he said as a negative. I knew he came up in a time and a place where that's not something daddies talk to their girls about. Typically, a woman would have talked to me, but there was no woman to talk to me,
Mm,
so or to my sister. So he created these women.
mm,
He presented us with an option of women in our lives that we should talk to if we had a question about our periods, about things that were happening physically with our bodies. So my point is that especially for men, raising girls or boys, it's easier for boys, but when raising girls,
mm,
having a creating a space for women, young ladies, to talk to someone who could give them womanly advice
mm.
is something that should not be underestimated.
Hey,
No.
Dr. G, I have a question. This is for you, Dr. G. Have you ever seen the episode of Good Times where JJ got VD?
When he got what?
VD.
Yes.
He
Okay, go
thought he
ahead.
had VD. Okay. Did people wear condoms in the 70s?
Let me tell you something. Condoms back in the day, if you talk to even some of your grandparents, that was the contraceptive method and
Mm,
the STD method of choice. When
mm,
young people went into the military back in the day, condoms was one of the few options. When I speak to my mother about why she had 5 children when she wanted to dance on Broadway, when she was a tap dancer and could have danced on Broadway but was not allowed, the one thing she said to me was that she never had an option for pregnancy prevention. That
Right.
that
It,
was
it seems
not
like
available
it
to
seems like
women.
back in the 60s and 70s and the 50s, they was, people having 10, 12, 15 kids.
I swear,
That,
yeah.
sure, but
Did
see,
they
that
just
was cultural. That was also cultural. That had to do with women's roles and responsibilities. And
mhm.
back then, those times, I mean, I think I'm part of the first generation of women who came who said, my job is not always to stay home and have 10 kids, and I want a life, I want a profession, I there's something out there that I want more than just being somebody's wife. I
Mhm.
and that has been a blessing and a curse that I was raised by a man, because what I did not get was all of the socialization that women get from their mothers. The things that you're asking me about, I didn't get that. My dad's lessons were crystal clear. One, you're not staying with me for the rest of your life.
Mm.
Number two, when you leave, you're not coming back.
Good gracious.
And number three, you better, I'm giving you every skill set, every opportunity to build a skill that will serve, that help you survive when you go. So you better take advantage of it. He gave us what we needed, not necessarily everything that I wanted.
Mm.
And so that came, how that has manifested, how it manifested with a 17-year-old when I left to go to Tuskegee, who I was. I knew when I left to go to Tuskegee, I couldn't go back.
Mm,
Man.
That I better not get pregnant because I couldn't go back. And I knew I didn't want to go back in that under those situations and circumstances. And quite frankly, to me at this age of almost 69, the reality is I was blessed that that was my indoctrination,
Mm.
because so many women that I know, even now, they went into it with a paradigm of this false anticipation that someone was going to take care of me. I never had that in my head.
right.
I always believed that I had to take care of myself, even with a stable parent there. And it was a blessing and a curse, because it also makes it difficult for you to succumb,
Mm,
made it difficult to give in, and to believe that there was some person that I identified and would be in a relationship with who believed that they wanted to take care of me. That was a difficult pill to swallow, because my dad never gave me that option to believe that. My younger sister had that. I didn't have that.
mm,
Mm. So Jazz, let me ask you this: when we talk about mental health and we talk about I think it's important to talk about access to mental health, right? Because I think one of the things that kind of differentiates a lot of us is that we don't always have the same access to healthcare as other uh, groups do, right?
Right.
So, what would you say is I guess, the path to least resistance to receive mental health resources for your children if you are a parent and you're looking to get mental health resources for your young people?
Uh, you can call your MCO, which is I know in our area, is Alliance. So they can definitely contact Alliance, Behavior Health. I have the number, which is 1-800-510-9132. That's 1-800-510-9132. And there's also another platform. It's called the Whole Brother Mission, wholebrothermission.com. It's a nonprofit organization, and they specialize in helping individuals find a therapist for you, one that fits you, one that, that tailors the things that you're going through and the things that you need. You also have Trillium, and that number is 1-877-608-5472, 1-877-608-5472.
Can you
And you
repeat
have Partners Health Management.
can you repeat that again?
Trillium Community Healthcare is
Oh,
1-877-600-5472. And you have Partners Health Management. Partners 1-888-235-4673. That's 1-888-235-4673. And majority of these MCOs are based off of region. So you have to, if you call one, they will tell you if they're in your region or not, and they will connect you with the MCU that is in your region. And what you do is you call and you say, hey, I'm looking for a therapist, and you can specify your preference. Are you looking for a Black therapist? Are you looking for a male therapist, a female therapist, Caucasian therapist? They will help you find the therapist that you need. And I understand that my platform, I'll be honest with you, my platform that's been helpful for me has been Facebook. I have a lot of people who reach out to me just off of Facebook, because a lot of people don't know who's a therapist. A lot of, like you said, a lot of people don't know how it works, or how it works. Is who can I call? How do I get in contact with this person? You know what I'm saying? I don't know a therapist. So I gave that information. What you can also do is you can also look on psychology.com. So if you look on psychology.com, they can also link you with a therapist in your area. Once you put in your zip code, and they can help you find a therapist for you. And you can search to see, you can read their profile and see if this is a therapist that you like.
what is the brother thing again? What was the link that you talked about, a brother?
It's called my pastor's brother, actually. I believe he's the CEO of that website, the wholebrothermission.com, wholebrothermission.com. And it's an excellent platform that will help you find the therapists in your area. And they are a nonprofit organization that really work. I mean, they work different states as well. So awesome organization.
Yeah, and I also like to lift up Therapy for Black Girls and therapyforblackboys.com. Both of those sites are great resources if you're looking for specifically African American therapists for your girls or for your boys or for men or for women. Those are great resources. And Jazz, you have something that is going on about pertaining to mentorship. So I want you to talk a little bit about that before we close out.
Yeah, my organization is Mentor Raising Mentors, Behavioral Health Services. And I just want to give you an idea where I got this from, so I can paint a picture. My church is based off disciples making disciples. And I figure I can create a system where I have leaders creating leaders. It's like a domino effect. So if I can take young boys, young girls out of their community and help them become leaders and let them discover that they are leaders, and they just have to find themselves. Once they become leaders, I can put them back into that community and they can spread leadership. So that's where mentor raising mentors actually um, um, arise from. It was created based off that theory. But I'm also doing a therapeutic summer program this summer. It's the first, I believe, in this area where I'm going to be working with young children from the age of 5 to 13, 14, and we're going to be doing group work. We're going to be doing individual sessions. We're going to work on their social skills. We're going to work on problem solving skills. We're going to do everything. I want to introduce them to exposure, because a lot of kids, to be honest with you, what I've noticed, they just need exposure sometimes. It's parenting and also exposure. So if I can expose you to new things, one thing I've learned is you can't be unexposed to what you've been exposed to. So once I expose you to new things and creative things and open your mind, you go back with a different idea of what you want to do with your life. You may discover something within inside of yourself that you can implement in your everyday life. So we'll be taking field trips to different parts of Carolina, to the museum, taking some kids who probably never even been to the beach. You know what I'm saying? Letting them get that experience. But that's what my program is all about. It's all about leadership and building my community, building the community up.
And your summer program is full, or you're still taking?
My summer program is full by the grace of God.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I thought.
So yeah. So this year again, I had to start off small. And to be honest with you, we have close to about 40 participants. So
that ain't small. That's big.
Yeah,
that ain't small.
Right.
40 kids. Boy, that's gigantic actually.
Yes, you have a staff. I assume you have a staff.
Yes, we have staff. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to do that by myself. We have staff.
40 kids. That ain't small by no stretch of the imagination. No,
Where is it held?
It'll be held in Raleigh at Vision Church. So they have a facility, and I was able to talk with the organization and allow me to bless me with their facility by grace of God. So we'll be operating there from 8 o'clock to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And what'll happen is, for the most part, it's free. And I'm providing lunch and snack, and parents don't have to worry about that. And that they get therapy. They get therapy at least 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. My idea is, I only have you for an hour. I have you for an hour, and then I put you back into the same situation you just came from. How effective is that? But if I can have you for 8 hours out the day, 5 days a week, I probably can spark more. I probably can do more. You'll learn more. And then when you go back in that environment, you may be able to teach somebody something. So that's my idea. Hopefully by next year, it'll be bigger. I can get some sponsors and make it bigger, get some therapists in there, more therapists in there, and we make it more than what it is. And hopefully it spreads. But for now, this is just a pilot, and we'll see what happens. But I'm excited about it.
Yeah, it sounds like God is doing great work through you, Jazz, and you are doing awesome. For people who want to get more information on you and your practice, of course, I don't even know if you said that you're in the Raleigh area.
Yes.
Other than just now, let people know how they can get in contact with you, how they can, your services, all of that good stuff.
I'm in the Raleigh area. My contact is 919-806-6835. That's 919-806-6835. My email address is Jhazmere, that's Jhazmere at mrmbhs.com. That's Jhazmere, Jhazmere at mrmbhs.com. My address is 4913 Professional Court, 4913 Professional Court, Suite 210. That's in Raleigh. And you can reach me off my email address as well. My website, which is mrmbhs.com. That's mrmbhs.com.
So for those of us that have ADHD, would you repeat your phone number?
It's 919-806-6835.
6835.
Yes,
okay. Well, all right. Power to the people.
Hey.
And Dr. G, Jazz is a world-renowned rapper as well. I cannot let him leave here without acknowledging that he is.
I'm going to send you my grandson's CD so you can tell him whether or not he needs to keep his day job.
Oh, please send it to me.
I am. It's on Apple Music.
Really?
Wait.
Yeah.
Is he still in what was he, Texas, Dr. G?
No, actually, he's back here. Parenting.
Oh, okay.
Black male parenting. Going to HVAC school.
Okay, I like it.
Okay.
I like it.
So yeah, I can't say I won't be reaching back.
You got anything to close us out, Dr. G?
I don't. This has been absolutely awesome. What a pleasure to meet you, Jhazmere. And Dion, one of the things I know when you bring somebody to the table, I'm going to be the better for it. So all kudos to him. He gives me hell, though. I'm just going to say he's.
But you love me, though.
I do.
I know. All right, y'all. That's it. This episode is a wrap. We appreciate you tapping in. You make sure you download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, all the places you find your content. We there. We'll see you, I guess, next month for the next episode with Dr. G. We'll figure out who we're going to have. But this has been great for Mental Health Awareness Month. Definitely thank you, Jazz, for tapping into this show. And we will just continue to just try to provide these resources and provide this information to the folks because we need it. So we'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks. Your church isn't on Keynes Avenue, is it?
It's off Departure Drive.
Okay.
Oh, you better stop. I'll just quick.
Peace.